The year was 2008. Putin was sitting in his VIP box in Beijing's Bird's Nest Stadium, poker-faced for the lavish opening ceremony of 2008 Beijing Olympics. The pageantry that he was viewing was world-class. But why was the Russian leader distracted? It was because Moscow was at war with former Soviet Republic Georgia. Putin was distracted by real-time updates as the Russian air operations commenced on that very day. Now, 14 years later, the Russian leader is in the same city. It is again another Olympics, another opening ceremony held in the same stadium with the same leader. But how is Vladimir Putin this time? Is he distracted? Now, the Winter Games are already controversial. It has been tainted by diplomatic boycotts and the authoritarian flexing of Beijing. But the tensions in Ukraine are completely overshadowing the Olympics. This time, Putin is joining Xi Jinping for the opening ceremony. The Chinese leader has spent billions to showcase its power, and China's return to the global stage after the pandemic. So the last thing that Xi Jinping would want is a war, distracting the world from his coveted games, which is why Xi Jinping looks like the person with the most influence on Putin's timetable. Currently, Russia and China are enjoying the best relations. The two have been strengthening ties on all fronts. They have had similar foreign policy approaches. The leaders even share a great personal rapport. Now, since 2013, the two have met over 30 times, with Xi Jinping even calling Putin his best friend. But even the U.S. intelligence suggested the same. Washington remains convinced that Putin is ready to use force against Ukraine by mid-February. This is because any military action during the Olympics could upset Xi Jinping. For now, Russia has very little incentive to antagonize China, especially at a time when it is facing off with the West. For Russia, China is its top trading partner, a key source of investment in its energy projects. Moscow is also the biggest supplier of weapons to China and the second largest source of its oil imports. But no matter what Putin wants, the focus continues to remain on Ukraine. The entire world is talking about it. Russia and China are issuing joint statements asking NATO to stop expansion. The two leaders are trying to put up a united front, and the West is deploying more and more troops, while Putin and China have been in the same situation once. This time, it looks like the drumbeats of war are drowning Xi's Olympic dreams. Now we are coming to you with the latest, as Russia has, of course, very little incentive to antagonize China at the start of these Beijing Winter Olympic Games. This, of course, at a time that is so crucial when Russia is facing off with the West over Ukraine. Now, for Russia, China is its top trading partner, also a key source of investment in many of its energy projects, and Moscow also the biggest supplier of weapons to China and second largest source of its oil imports. Now, Russia and China have been issuing joint statements asking NATO to stop expansion. The two leaders are trying to put up a united front, and the West is deploying more and more troops. While Putin and China have been in the same situation, we see that this time it looks like the drumbeats of war are drowning Xi Jinping's Olympic dreams, with the start of the Olympics just getting underway. We know that these have very great rapport, and for more on this, we are being joined for the latest details from the ground by WION's executive editor, Palki Sharma from Kyiv. Hello to you, Palki, and thank you for being with us on the broadcast. Now, with President Putin meeting his Chinese counterpart in Beijing, is it a meeting of intent in the wake of this Ukraine crisis?
Oh, most certainly it is. Although Putin's visit to Beijing was long planned, the fact that they've come out with a joint statement and the fact that it has made bigger headlines than the opening ceremony of the Beijing Olympics does show that there is intent on both sides, and Russia and China have closed ranks on this. And that is a bigger challenge for the West because so far America and its NATO allies were dealing with what Russia is doing, and this was a game of geopolitical poker that was being played from Moscow with the troops being deployed, and that deployment has been on for more than 3 months. But the fact that the Chinese have joined hands and said in so many words that America and its allies are destabilizing and threatening peace in the Asia-Pacific region is a very, very significant statement. It also means that it's a two-front challenge that the West will now have to deal with. And we have a very active Taiwan situation very much on, and we understand that Beijing would not want to make any moves while the Winter Olympics are on, but you never know what happens. And given Putin's risk-taking appetite, the fact that he has got this kind of commitment from the Chinese and joint statement with very, very strong and specific lines is a significant development in this crisis that has escalated into a conflict over the past few months.
Absolutely. Now, Palki, you are there on the ground. How do you see things from Kyiv? What is the mood there, given the war clouds hovering over Ukraine? If you see on the streets, if you see the traffic, if you see people going about their business, you would feel that it's any other day in Ukraine, and what is in the headlines is not really being reflected in the conversations and the lives of an average Ukrainian, especially in the city of Kyiv. But Alison, where I'm standing, we know, is within striking distance of Russian soldiers, as they have lined up in Belarus, and they've basically covered all sides of Ukraine, both in the waters and on land. So there is palpable tension. When you talk to people, they try to brush it off initially, and they say we've seen this conflict for very many years, and it's blown hot and cold in the past 8 years, especially after the annexation of Crimea. But there is tension, certainly. There's no panic as such. There's no panic buying. People are, like I said, going about their business. But the worry is definitely there. It's not a regular and a routine affair when a country much bigger than yours has 125,000 troops deployed at your border. Absolutely. Palki, we'll leave it there. Thank you for bringing us all the latest straight out of Kyiv.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.